All net, no rim. We back with another video. Still the producer, Doughboy Bush. What's good, my brother, man?
Yes, sir. Man, I'm doing good, man. Doing good. How about yourself?
We back. Oh, man. You know what? I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm gonna be honest with everybody. I'm gonna be honest with you, myself, and the viewers, man. I am tired. I got a headache today, but we gonna grind it out, and we still gonna, you know what I'm saying? We got some things to talk about. We got some big news today in the NBA, and we're getting ready for the NBA Finals. But before we get to that, if this is your first time to the channel, please hit that sub button, like, comment. Let us know what you think about the topics today, which are, we're going to talk about a few things today. We're going to kind of recap the Pacers Knicks, the ending of that series. We're going to talk about the firing of Tom Thibodeau, and you know how I feel about it. We're going to see how Doughboy feels about it. He already knows how I feel about it, but we're going to talk about it so y'all know how I feel about it. And then we are going to do like a quick little NBA Finals preview. Today is Tuesday, June 3rd. It's already June 3rd. Golly, this year is flying.
It is.
And the NBA Finals starts on the 5th, which is Thursday this week. Yeah, I think it's gonna be a lackluster NBA Finals, but we'll get to that too. So, All right. So let's kind of just, we kind of talked about the Pacers Knicks series. I think early in the series, like around like game 1, game 2-ish. But, now that the series is over, Pacers are Eastern Conference champions. They're getting ready to play the OKC Thunder. But just how that series finished, what are your thoughts as far as the Knicks-Pacers matchup? Because, I've been really adamant about how I feel about it, but I kind of want you to fire off first. What are your thoughts on how that series ended? And just, I guess, as far as the Knicks, Pacers, the I guess rivalry people want to call it. I mean, because the Pacers did beat the Knicks last year too.
Right.
And it kind of reignited because the whole Reggie Miller thing, but that was over 20 years ago. But now it's kind of like it's kind of picking back up. With the Pacers having the upper hand in the last couple of years. So, just what are your thoughts on this last series?
Shocking.
Okay,
I'm not even gonna hold you.
Okay.
I'm definitely shocked about how this whole series played out. We did not expect this. At least I didn't expect it. I didn't expect Indiana to come in and pretty much debo the Knicks. I did not see that coming. It was a shock, and quite frankly, I'm spinning my head around it like,
what happened there?
What took place? Right. Like what happened? Like how did we get to this point? Because let's just be honest, after we went ahead and went through the first couple of rounds of the playoffs, they got through, Boston, should I say?
But Detroit was kind of a tough series for them too.
Well, Detroit.
I want to say that was 6 games as well, wasn't it? For the Knicks, 6 games. I think it was.
I think so. And even with that, though, we said it beforehand, and I know a lot of teams do this, but we felt like the Knicks did it a little too much by playing down to competition. Playing down to their competition when they should be beating up on these actual teams, or at least giving them a run for their money. For me, watching them, go ahead and beat Detroit. Then, of course, they ended up beating the Celtics with going down. So
Tatum.
I'm just Tatum. I'm just sitting back thinking like, all right, this might be New York's year to go ahead and get to the finals. Right. I can actually really compete and possibly win one.
You just beat the champs, right? You just beat the Boston Celtics.
Exactly.
And people don't realize Tatum got, the Knicks were already up.
They were still
and then Tatum got hurt at the end of that game. But I want to say it was only a few minutes left and the Knicks were up. So they were going to win that game too. Yes. Now you did play 2 more games after that, because I want to say they lost the next game and then won the following game.
They did.
So
they did.
But
you got past the team that initially people thought was going to actually, get back into the finals and possibly repeat again, especially with the way they were playing, especially later on in the season.
You and I both called the Celtics.
A lot of us did think that the Celtics were going to go ahead and actually run a clean sweep. Possibly getting back to the finals and go ahead and and repeating. So I just felt like once they beat them, it was like, all right, you guys should be the clear cut.
It kind of seemed like a clear lane
to get to the finals.
Especially after,
I felt like,
to me, especially after the Pacers beat the Cavaliers. I was like, they just knocked out and I felt like, I was like, in my mind, they got lucky and beat the #1 team in the East. I'm like, the Knicks get to play I was feeling like we get to play the Pacers. It wasn't like we had to play the Cavs. No, we get to play the Pacers. Let's get to this NBA Finals. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and then for me, it was just like, you know, I kept saying, I feel like the Knicks are the better team. The Knicks are the better team. But
they were. I felt like they were the better.
But here's the thing. I kept saying that, and I've been watching a lot of analysts say the same thing, but in a different way. So, like, I think what we're saying is the Knicks have better talent. You know what I'm saying? When you look at the Brunson, the Mikal Bridges, Anunoby,
OG.
You know, Josh Hart, Cat, but the Pacers are a better team. They play together. They're better coached. Cohesiveness. That's the word. The more cohesive, and they had an identity on both offense and defense. And talking about identity, right? Let's talk about Tom Thibodeau getting fired. Now, a lot of people are kind of up in arms about that. We're seeing Samuel Acho from Fox. He over there, you know, I know Kendrick Perkins, he was up in arms about it. I was just on IG earlier, and even Stephen A. Smith, he was kind of talking about like, oh man, like, but like, okay. Yeah. My whole thing is, and you know I said this, after game one, I was like, that was Tom Thibodeau. I said, that was Tom Thibodeau. Okay. And because as I'm watching the game, you can kind of see schematically, the Knicks weren't really making adjustments. Right. He was just kind of stuck in like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to live and die by whatever we do. It's not working. Like, you know, Rick Carlisle is out coaching you right now. Make the adjustments, right? Especially,
you got to make the adjustments.
Especially, there was two things that killed the Knicks this entire series: turnovers, them turn the ball over, and those turnovers turn into points for the Pacers, and transition defense. Bro, they could not play defense in transition. No. That's why Siakam got the Eastern Conference MVP, because he was just running. Yeah. He was just running, and that's why Halliburton had all those assists. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna run with you." Here, Siakam. Oh, layup. I'm like,
"I'm just gonna feed you." Yeah, let's get out. Let's go ahead and run. They're not getting back in transition.
So the one thing, let's get them. The credit I will give to the Indiana Pacers is they know what they do, and they do it well. You know, as a team,
right?
Really no superstars. I'm not going to call Halliburton no superstar. Very good player. I say star, but superstar, not yet. You know, he's a star. But I always said that about Halliburton, though. Halliburton was doing that here. He was just a young version of it. He was doing that same player here.
And the crazy part about it is the reason why the world or the NBA fan base did not hear about it was based on him being in Sacramento at that time and not really getting a lot of airplay and then playing behind De'Aaron Fox.
But also too, Indiana's not a large market either as far as TV.
But they're playing. They're playing. I think they get more tick on the East Coast because they're in the Eastern Conference.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Versus the Sacramento Kings being in the West. You know, the Western Conference. They really weren't getting a lot of airtime during that time frame.
No.
So Halliburton wasn't really a household name like that unless you really watched basketball and you really watched the Kings play, or you watched him in college and seen him play in college. You know, but yeah, I mean, he's not a superstar just yet. Can he get to that level? I definitely see it coming eventually, you know, and it could be another thing we could talk about, you know, if you want to, you know, here's, you know, eventually, you know, about him, if he possibly does win, you know, the championship, can we finally go ahead and put him into that category, you know? So something else we can go ahead and talk about eventually.
If he wins a championship,
so I'm saying, so go back to what you were saying, because I don't want to get on topic just yet. I know I already know you're going to go with that, so I ain't going to go ahead and do that. But getting back on topic of what we're talking about as far as that series, and then, you know, Tibbs being fired. I was kind of on the fence about Tibbs being fired. I felt like he's a good coach in a sense. I felt like Rick Carlisle just outcoached him and made the proper adjustments that need to go ahead and be made. Then for two, I also felt like when you go with a 6-man rotation, possibly a 7-man rotation, you're killing your team, because the Knicks, like, they were gassed out there. Let's just be real.
Can I piggyback off that last thing you just said? Yeah, go ahead. If you don't play your bench, right, doesn't that kind of play into the coach that you are, your style of coaching? Yes. So. Definitely. And that's why I feel like, you know, a lot of the criticism that the Knicks front office is getting today isn't fair, because if you kind of know who this guy is, and in your mind, you're like, you know what? we're not going to go to him and tell him that how he needs to coach the team, because if he's a coach, he needs to coach the way he needs to coach.
But he's able to go ahead and do that stuff, right?
But they're probably looking at it like that's not conducive to winning basketball in New York right now, because if again.
No,
you lost to the same team 2 consecutive years.
Yes.
So you're like, man, we can't even get past these guys. All right, we gotta switch it up. So I don't feel like I kind of feel like the Knicks front office is getting an unfair shake today for the firing, because and like I told you, I feel like we're losing these games because of coaching. I mean, you were saying it too, like man, you kept saying like Rick Carlisle was out coaching the hell out of, you know what I'm saying?
Out coaching. I felt like he was out coaching.
He was,
and then when Indiana did have their spurts of where they were getting into a little bit of trouble here and there, you know, hey, Rick would be like, all right, we need to go ahead and do X, Y, and Z. You know, let me figure out what players he switch it up game right now. That's going to go ahead and switch it up to where I can go ahead and start making these adjustments so that way we can go ahead and play better. Mm-hmm. I didn't really see that from Tibbs. I didn't see Tibbs really making those type of adjustments. And like I said, you know, I know NBA teams, they tend to go ahead and go to a smaller rotation when it comes down to the playoffs and in finals runs. I don't know why that is. I feel like, you know, when you are
why is that
deep as the Knicks are, I don't know why. I don't know why. I think maybe I've noticed that, but NBA teams do that. Certain ones.
Yeah, maybe it's because
But I feel like there was enough talent on New York's bench though to where you could have switched it up to where you didn't have to rely heavily on, you know, Brunson or, you know, Cat or OG.
Somebody made a point, and I forgot who it was. It could have been Stephen A. Smith, but somebody I think it was. That made a point was like, okay, when you play DeLon Wright, when you play Shamet and they come in and you play Precious Achua and they're playing well, now the front office is kind of looking like, wait a minute. So these guys can actually play.
Not playing.
Right. So now it's kind of like, sense. So now they're kind of looking at like too much, too little, too late. It's like, bro, why weren't you playing these guys the whole entire time? Because when you look at the minutes, I wish I had the stat up. The starter minutes for the Knicks, this whole,
were heavy.
Oh, it was ridiculous.
Heavy.
You know what I'm saying? It was ridiculous.
If you looked at game, I think it was 2 or 3, and it might have been 2, 3, and 4. If you looked at them games, Brunson like he was gassed, Cat like he was gassed, OG and Hart like they were gassed at times. And I'm sitting back like, damn, bro, like why is he playing these cats so many minutes right now? Like, what's going on?
No,
hey, bro, rotate, man. Get your guys. Get these young bulls in the game, man.
I asked y'all. I'm like, bro, Precious Achua, he could play, right? Am I tripping? Like, in my mind, I'm like,
you did say that. No, you said that. You said the first. I think game 1. You said, remember, I said, hey, bro, why is he not playing more?
And then I want to say, I think I told you on the last video. I was like, man, I know I said it on the last video we did. Landry Shamet, he's known to get hot for every team. Remember I said that? Yeah. I'm like, man, but the other day he came in garbage time, hit like 2 straight threes. I'm like, yeah. Come on, man! Like, come on. I think the Knicks front office saw that and they were like, "Yeah, oh, we shouldn't have lost the series, and we lost because of you." You know what I mean? So.
And that's understandable because, like we said beforehand, you're in the Eastern Conference Finals,
and let's talk about it.
And like I said, no knock to the Indiana Pacers, no knock whatsoever.
No.
But the doors were open where people thought that this might have been the year that New York was going to go ahead and actually get to the finals and possibly go ahead and win.
You took the words in my mouth. That's what I'm getting ready to say. You beat the champs, right?
Exactly.
They knocked out the Cavs, the 2 toughest teams in the East. They're like, oh, all right, we beat the Celtics. Y'all beat the Cavs. We for sure can beat y'all. We probably should beat you.
Exactly.
We probably should beat you guys. And I still feel like they should have, but I feel like Tom Thibodeau was the reason they didn't. You know what I'm saying? Now there was some.
That's why I said I felt 50-50 about the coaching change. I mean, I felt like they probably could have talked to him during the offseason and said, hey, look here, you know what? We're going to go ahead and give you another shot.
Yeah.
But if you coach anything like how you did this playoffs and the playoffs beforehand, then, hey, bro, we might have to go ahead and go to a different direction.
That's what I'm saying. And I feel like you can't go to him and say that because, again, you got to let the coach be the coach. So you can't go to him and, hey, I think you should do this. Because when you hire a coach, you hire him to do his job. So they can't tell him how to coach or, hey, why don't you use your rotation? Maybe they could have a meeting and suggest, but, you know, if they kind of know who he is, they know the guy. They're like, you know, maybe he'd be better suited somewhere else. 2 more points I want to make about the Knicks before we move on to the NBA Finals. Also, I don't know if you saw today, there's been talks about the players expressed, what's the word I'm looking for? Dissatisfaction with Cat's defense. I guess they said he does. They were saying he doesn't communicate. You know, he messes up on the rotations a lot. You know, how many open shots were given up? You know what I mean? Like, and that's why I remember when I think was it game 2 to where I think he only played like 25 minutes or something like that. And Mitchell Robinson,
he got pulled.
Yeah, Mitchell Robinson because Tibbs was like, I need somebody who in there who could play a little bit of defense.
Who's gonna be able to rotate and talk.
The problem is the Pacers guys, you know, were so much more agile and quicker that those big. You know, Cat, he's kind of a lumber. Like we were just talking about, like when he runs, it kind of look like it's tough to run. He's so big. Like, he's a big dude.
Man, like he's just so big and carrying all that weight.
Yeah, so he's not really agile. So it's hard to get it, you know, go under those screens. You know, you can't go over. You're going to knock the guy over. So if you go under the screens and now he's way over here, it's like, oh, I got to go over there and chase him. So it's like.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just. You know, so I guess, they were talking about that. I want you to look that up. I don't think you saw that today, but
I didn't get a chance to see that at all.
Yeah, so some of the players were, you know, were upset about the Cat.
And you know what? I'm not shocked about it, hearing something like that.
Well, we saw it. You know, we watched it. You know what I mean?
We see, If you watch the game and you seen how it was being played, you can go ahead and honestly tell that, you know, Cat wasn't really doing a good job on the defensive side of the ball, you know, at times. So, I mean, with that being said, it's just like, where do you go from there? You know what I mean? How do you?
Well,
get this message off without it being a problem? Because I've seen some. You know where I'm going on X. I've seen some things on X. I talking about possibly.
I didn't plan on talking about it. I didn't plan on talking about it. But they saying.
I seen.
But they're saying. If, to be honest, Antetokounmpo says, "Hey, I'm interested in New York." They say, "Cat." So it might be a one and done for Cat. It might be a one and done for Cat.
Can you blame them for possibly wanting to go ahead and go the Giannis route? And
because here's the thing. If you had Giannis, be real. Do you think they lose that series?
No.
Nope. Because he plays defense,
especially with all the help. Especially with all the help that they have. Yeah,
they're not losing that series. I'm be real with you, and I hate to say it because I like Cat, man. I don't want to beat up on Cat. I think if they had Julius Randle, they win that series.
Damn, you think so?
Yes. I feel like if they
Julius Randle,
if they kept him, and you have that same, if you play the same series over with the Pacers, I feel like they win. I feel like they win.
Yeah, because was hurt the year before last year. He didn't play.
His shoulder. He had the shoulder. I remember I remember that year. Injury. He hurt his shoulder. I was watching the game in January of 2024. He hurt his shoulder, and then he just never came back. And so when the playoffs came, it was a pretty significant injury because he didn't come back. And I was wondering, I wonder what made them trade him though. Cause remember when that happened, the Minnesota New York trade? Everybody's like, yo, it was kind of like a shocker because it was kind of late in the summer. It was like right before the season. I'm like, damn, like what?
It was.
So I wonder what made the Knicks do that.
But it wasn't a bad drop off.
No,
it wasn't. Cat
it wasn't until you see it now because Cat don't play no defense, right? And then it's like, oh, if we'd have had Randle, healthy Randle.
I mean, I felt like I'll play this. I felt like Randle and Tibbs did not mix. I felt like Tibbs didn't know how to use Randle, and Randle did not succeed in that offense when he was there. He played very, very erratic when he was in New York. So, and you see him play a little bit more contained and controlled when he came over to Minnesota with Finch.
I think it humbled him. I think the trade humbled him a little bit.
I'm sure probably did, you know, but yeah, he played a little erratic, man, when he was with New York, and I didn't like that about him because I kept telling y'all, I'm like, damn, why does he keep moving up and down the ball, up and down the court like this so fast without, with no control? Ain't nobody running to his left or to his right wing. It was just him. Want to push the ball.
You know what I didn't like about him? There was a couple times where he got into like little spats with his team, like on the court or on the side. I'm like, bro, relax. It was like one time, I don't know if it was OG, somebody was just like trying to calm him down, and he like got in their face like, man, get off. I'm like, bruh. It was Emmanuel Quickly before he got traded. It was Emmanuel Quickly like 2 seasons ago. I'm like, damn, bro, like. So I didn't like that, but he kind of seemed to calm down a little bit. I didn't see none of that in Minnesota because I don't think Ant's having that.
Not at all.
I don't think Ant's having that.
No, nah. I think Finch and him wasn't having that. You know, you have too many other players over there that's gonna be like, nah, bro, like
we're not doing that.
Be cool.
Yeah,
we're not.
And who knows? Maybe. And who knows? Maybe his attitude is what got him traded. Maybe the attitude is what.
Yeah. Yeah,
between
true.
They're probably like between they're probably like between the injury and the attitude. Give us Cat. So I understand the trade. The trade wasn't bad, but in retrospect, seeing how he played, because he played pretty well most games. In the playoffs, even though he
had a couple, he had a couple games here and there.
But if you got him in the East, if you have him in the East and he's not playing OKC,
it's a different story.
And the last point I want to make, about the Knicks firing Thibodeau, and I thought about this today, and it kind of hit me just thinking about it. Like I'm like, oh, I bet you like this is a really good reason why. Look at how many good coaches are available right now. Mike Malone's not going to be available next offseason. Mike Brown is not going to be available next off. So if you're the Knicks, you're like, oh, okay, we just came off 2 straight years of losing to the Pacers. We got a chance to get one of those guys. Thank you for your services, Thibodeau. Because you're not. It's not every day you have a. I want to say the quote was they want a championship pedigree coach, right? Mike Brown.
There's some out there that's right there now.
Mike Brown and Mike Malone are both champions. Yes. Mike Brown with the Golden State Warriors. With the Warriors on that bench. You know what I mean? I want to say he had a run with the Cavaliers. They didn't win. They didn't win, but he had a deep playoff runs with LeBron and things like that. So Mike Malone won with Jokic. You know what I mean? So they're saying they want that type of guy, and I just feel like again, those 2 guys, I don't see them being available next summer, and I think the Knicks front office, was probably like,
they won't be.
Who was his name? Leon Perry, I think it is.
I mean, when you look at it in that aspect of it, you're in the Big Apple. You're in New York. It don't get no bigger outside of coming to LA. And I don't see, Mike Brown. I don't see, Mike Malone. I don't see these cats turning down no opportunity to be like to come coaching in New York.
Leon Rose, my bad. I said Perry. Leon Rose.
Okay, Leon Rose. Yeah, GM. You don't pass up a job to come, or you don't pass up a New York opportunity, just like you wouldn't pass up an LA opportunity to coach a very storied franchise. Now they might not have won nothing in quite some time, but it's like they're on the brinks of getting right there. They just got to figure out how to turn that extra wheel over or that extra stone over in order to go ahead and get to that to make it finally happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So hopefully, that one of these cats decide to take the job. I wouldn't be mad at it. I wouldn't be mad at either one of those hires.
But I think between everything we talked about, I feel like those coaches kind of just being out there right now, I feel like the Knicks looked at that as an opportunity. Like,
definitely, for sure. They were looking at chops
because you can't. Guys like that aren't just available all the time, and you got some good options right now. So I feel like that was a factor.